I think you're rooting for the bad guys.
And who doesn't want to root for the bad guys?
Huh?
You've played a lot of bad guys I didn't root
Well,
for.
you're going to root for me in this thing.
We're always going to root for you, Margo. Welcome to Salon Talks. I am Mary Elizabeth Williams, and I am sitting next to, how can we call her anything but esteemed character actress, Margo Martindale. It's going to haunt you for the rest of your life. But you know what? You're also a 3-time Emmy winner. You've been in so many great films and crazy films and funny films. $1 Million Baby, August, Osage County, Hannah Montana, the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Which is seminal in my children's lives. Like you defined a generation with that one. And
Can they pop it, bop it, polka dot it? Good, so can I.
I want to know if you can still do the hoedown showdown.
Sure.
Okay, we'll do that later. And of course, Cocaine Bear, Justified, The Americans, The Millers, BoJack, Horseman, and now you are the star, Margo, of the new Amazon series, The Sticky.
It's kind of exciting, I have to say. It's fun to be, now this sounds obnoxious, but it's fun to be number one.
You're number one on the call sheet.
I'm number one on the call sheet.
You're the face on the ads. The face on the ads.
It's crazy.
You're the selling point for this show, Margo.
Well, I'm sure I have help with my co-stars. They're fantastic.
You have an amazing cast of Chris Diamantopoulos, Jamie Lee Curtis. It goes on and on and on.
Guillaume Cyr.
And yet, you are the star. Is this your first time starring in something?
Yes, really it is. But I mean, I did do a short film for Alexander Payne called Paris Je t'aime, and I was the only one in it. So I was the star of it.
You got to speak French.
I did have to speak French.
You did the whole thing in French.
I did.
And that part was written for you.
It was.
What do you say when someone says, "I wrote a part for you"?
He said, "I've written a part for you. I've never written anything for anyone before, and all I can say is, will you come to Paris and do it?" And I said, yes.
Without that much hesitation. I want to get back to this Sticky for a moment, though, because yeah, you're having a moment. You've reminded me lately of when Ruth Gordon won her first Oscar at about the same age you
Hello,
are.
Rosemary.
Yeah, that's it.
I love her. I loved her.
And you know what she said when she got that Academy Award, her first Academy Award? She was in her late-ish 60s, and she said, "This is so encouraging." So I want to know, is this encouraging?
It's encouraging.
Do you feel like maybe you're going places?
might be stepping up in the world. I don't know.
Right? Like maybe you've got a future in this business.
Maybe I do. Maybe. You never know, though. You know.
Well, what does this mean?
It's a fickle world.
What does this mean to you in terms of now? Okay, maybe you do have more leverage. Maybe you can direct. Maybe you.
Wouldn't have one bit of interest in that.
Okay, what do you want to do now that you're a star?
Well, just what the next job is, and if it's challenging enough to make it fun for me. That's it.
Let's talk about this, because this is challenging and fun. Tell me a little bit about this role, this character, this story that feels particularly timely right now, this frustrated woman we meet.
She's at the end of her rope. She is broke and furious and is trying to keep her husband alive in the house and doesn't have any money and is mad as hell at the government for taking her syrup away and putting it in a warehouse. Not all of it, but some of it.
Because she's a syrup.
Because she's a maple syrup farmer, or syrup. You know, I never know. I know Canadians say syrup, and you said syrup, and Texans say syrup.
And you couldn't be Texas for this. You couldn't be Texan for this.
I couldn't be
You
Texan.
had to do the deep work of saying syrup, like
Syrup.
we do up north.
Yeah.
You got this role in an interesting way, too. This is not a role that was written for you.
It wasn't written for me, no. It wasn't written, I don't know that it was written for anyone. But it was given to, and who they wanted for the part was Jamie Lee Curtis. And she was unable to do it. So I get a phone call one afternoon, and it's, she said, "Hello, Mara, it's Jamie Lee Curtis." Look, I was going to do this show, but I can't work out my schedule, and I thought, who is like me that I could call to do this? And she said, oh, of course, Margo Martindale. So in my head, I go, Margo Martindale, it's like Jamie Lee Curtis. I don't know in what world that is. She said, so will you come and do it? I said, I'll read it, yeah. No, you'll do it, right? I said, well, I will. Send me the script. I'm interested. You'll do it. I said, I'll probably do it, but I have to read it first. Anyway, I'd never talked to her before or anything.
Was it like buying a timeshare? Were you just afraid you were going to have to sign something before you?
There's a lot that needs to be worked out before I say yes to this.
And now here you are in this really fun adventure that's also about trying to stick it to the man.
It is trying to stick it to the man.
It feels like a moment that we
It's also
can
extremely satisfying. Extremely satisfying.
You get to do a lot of fun things in this.
I do.
You get to drive a tree through
I drive a tree through a town.
Yeah.
Crash the tree into the office of the association, my nemesis. It was physically demanding, and I did all the driving of that tree. I stood in the snow for hours. I was at the height of my rage when the thing opens, and then I go higher. But also I collapse and crash down, when I'm out of steam. It was so fun and so different from anything I've done, really. Even though a very strong woman, like a lot of women I've done, but it was a different emotional journey than I've had.
She's a different kind of character. She's unlike anybody
I think me too.
I've ever seen. To be in that kind of position where you are kind of leading the cast in your own way. I'm wondering, after being that person who is the supporting player for so long, when you step into that role, were you thinking of other people you've seen do it? Who are you drawing?
Are you talking about people being
like actors?
Yes, I thought about all that, and about how setting the tone of the group, knowing to be kind to everyone, to appreciating all the actors that are working on it, every single one. That's the way it happened to me. When I was the one person coming in for 2 scenes, even back then, that's the hardest thing you can do, because it's not your home, and you feel like an outsider. You can't screw up, and if you have the luxury of being on a show. I've been on many series now that are, have big, like the Sneaky Pete and all of those shows, and The Americans, and being on a show that you have a home, it takes a lot of pressure off. But people that are coming in and doing one episode, it's really so much harder. So you got to be nice to everyone.
It sounds like you are. I want to ask you about that, about being that person who steps in and being that one thing. It's going to haunt you forever, that phrase, esteemed character actress. What is that phrase, now that it's so deeply associated with you? And by the way, I know that there are people who say, I saw a BoJack Horseman and didn't know that was a real person. That's how deeply ingrained that character is. For you, when people say character actress and they associate it with you, I imagine there are different meanings that has in Hollywood.
I think people think of that very differently. I think that any actor worth their weight is a character actor, because you were playing a character and trying to find a new person. Not you, a new person that you morph into somebody else. And that's what acting's about to me. But then you have the movie stars and the people. That's a world that I don't really know about.
You've been at this a long time, plugging away for decades. You've said you were typecast for a while, and Justified changed that. What were you typecast at?
I did a lot of plays, and a lot of Southern plays. And I remember doing a play written by Jim McClure called A Lone Star in Laundry and Bourbon. and we premiered it at the McCarter Theater in Princeton. I looked, and it was wildly funny, and I looked up every theater in the United States that was doing that play in their rep season, and I called them directly and I said, look, I originated the role of Hattie, and I would love to come to your theater and do it. And I got several bites, and that got me into regional theater. And they said, well, if you come do that, would you do this play too? And which was great. So it was always the Southern thing. Now,
Steel Magnolias.
Steel Magnolias, of course, changed my career again. That's how I got in the movies, because everybody in Hollywood came to see Steel Magnolias, which I did the original of, and that's how I got my first movie in 1989, and all through the 90s I did movies. And then I did, really what changed the tone of what I was doing was $1 Million Baby, because that's the first bad person I'd played, really. And then I got Justified, and that blew the roof off for me.
So now are you typecast in a different way? Do people say, we want somebody who's going to break fingers?
Well, yeah, but I think that also people realized that I had an imagination that could make lots of different people, instead of just the Southern gal. That I could actually do accents and do other things. And it's opened up a world, a wholly different world for me. I could play, Bella Abzug, for example. Yeah.
New Yorker.
A New Yorker.
Upper West Sider.
Upper West Sider.
Like you.
That's right.
You're an Upper West Sider New Yorker.
I am.
You've lived here for 50 years now, Margo?
50.
Okay, I want to know, how do you do it? What does it take? How do you survive? You live in a walk-up apartment too, if I'm not mistaken? Okay. How do you do it? What is the secret to surviving in this city?
Well, I think this city's gone through many different phases. When I first came here, it was, pimps on my block. There was prostitution in that Upper West Side posh little area. That changed when, I think the 90s, when Giuliani came in. It changed the whole world of safety. This is the truth, because you felt like you could take your children on the street. And then, of course, 9/11 happened, and that brought everybody together in a way that was incredible. I find the survival instinct of New Yorkers incredible, because they come together. Hopefully we'll all come together again.
Let's talk about that,
Yeah.
because this is an interesting moment we are living in.
Yeah.
It is a polarizing moment, even here. This show that you're doing, it feels like a good respite from that for this moment. What is it about this show that you think maybe speaks to us right now?
Well, I think it's extremely fun. I think it's an escape. I think it's fast-paced, wacky, wild, touching, embracing, and I think you're rooting for the bad guys.
And who doesn't want to root for the bad guys? You've played a lot of bad guys I didn't root for.
Well, you're going to root for me in this thing.
We're always going to root for you, Margo. That's the thing. At this stage in your life, at this point where you are having this moment, you have, I would imagine, more clout than you have ever had in your life. That you have more of a say in what you can and cannot do. What is it that you want to do? Is there a role you haven't yet played that you really want to play? Is there a genre you still haven't tackled, or is there something you want to go back to?
I'd like to play somebody English.
Well, let me hear your London accent.
No, I have to work on that before
Or do I have to,
we
do I have
come
to
back.
pay you for
Because
that?
I'll never get a job that way.
I was going to assume I have to pay for your time, the professional services of Margo Martindale's poshest, most.
I'd like to also do a musical, but only singing one song. You know what I mean? I don't need. You're not going to want me to sing more than one song. I do have a movie coming out, The Twits, based on Roald Dahl's book. I'm playing Mrs. Twit, and I do sing David Byrne's music in the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But you weren't hoping that you could get Elphaba. You weren't saying, gee, I can't believe that Cynthia Erivo stole that.
Well,
out
I
from
guess
under.
she did. Can't believe it.
So it was down to 2 actresses. And then at the last
And they went with her.
they just said, Margo, we're going to go in a different direction.
Can't believe that.
In this one. Margo Martindale, thank you so much.
Oh, you're
It's
so
an
wonderful.
absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, and next time we're gonna practice so we can do the hoedown.
Hoedown, throwdown.
Throwdown. Oh my God, it's been too long. All right.
Do the hoedown, throw down, do the hoedown.
All right, we're working on it, but we're getting there. Margo Martindale, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Cheers.
Thank you for watching Salon Talks. If you had a good time, why not subscribe right over here so you can get more conversations with your favorite artists, actors, directors, writers, comedians, musicians, politicians, everybody you love, and I love too. And while you're here, why not watch another video right now?